Hello and welcome to how to use Trello to manage any creative project. Today we're going to be talking about Trello, which is a visual project management tool. We're going to discuss what it is, how it's different from other project management tools, and I'm going to show you how I use it specifically to create my blog content. Now, before we go into what Trello actually looks like, first we're going to talk about what is Trello. So I'm going to toggle over to show you what it looks like. Trello is a visual project management tool. It's free, it's web dedicated, so no downloads are required. You can access it anywhere, computer, laptop, smartphone, iPod, iPad, you name it, you can get there. I want to mention one more time that it is free. It does start out free, and it's a hugely powerful tool. Now, what makes Trello different from other project management tools? Well, most project management software out there, they rely on task lists and dates primarily. I find that there's a lack of visual reference, and that's why I like Trello, because it actually is a visual tool that you can see your ideas go from start to finish, and they actually move from left to right. So it looks kind of like this. You see your ideas here on the left, and they tend to go all the way to the right. I'll be talking about that a little bit more in depth in just a moment. But what I have found from using other project management tools is that there is no appreciable process flow for creative projects in other project management platforms. I do also use Asana for different purposes, but for creative process projects, whether they be business related or actually household and personal related, I like Trello. Trello uses a physical process flow from left to right, just like I just showed on the screen, and you can see your idea really turn into a final product. You actually can use your mouse to pick up your idea and move it left to right through the process itself. Now, specifically, how do I use Trello differently? I'm going to show you in just a moment. Typical projects in Trello start off with a board. This entire thing is your board. And the board is kind of like your tangible big picture project itself. So I have a board dedicated to just my blog. And then if I click over here, I have a board dedicated solely to printables. I have other boards dedicated for personal use like Christmas, home projects, and then there's a welcome board that comes with it when you sign up. And then I have some team boards. One of them in particular is what I call the dinner project. I like to plan all of our family meals the Sunday before the beginning of the new week, and so I keep all my recipes by food category, and I can go into that but in a different video. And then I have my blog board. So you can think of your boards as your major nugget. Traditionally, Trello board has a to-do list. You'll start off with a to-do over here. I'm going to scroll just to the left. Here's a to-do list right here. And then you would have a doing, and then you would end up with a done right here. Sorry to keep swinging back and forth. I use it a little bit differently. I like a little bit more granular detail. My boards typically look like this. I will have a to-do list over here on the left, which has business to-dos and items that I send from my personal email over to this to-do list, because I work right directly out of Trello in terms of creating posts and content upgrades and videos. And those emails sometimes go in conjunction with activities that I need to do behind the scenes. And then I actually will list the different process steps in lists. These are called lists because they look like lists. If you've ever played solitaire, you know that there will be some columns, typically 4 columns for each type of card, right? So think of these almost like your solitaire, and then these individuals are called cards. The way that I use Trello, it tends to be that each card is a blog post idea. Whether they make it from idea all the way to published is another story, but this is my idea bank. So what I do is I create a new card for an idea, and you can tell that I have quite a few because like I said, you can access Trello from anywhere. So I'm a busy mom. I have 3 kids. I run this blog, and I also have other work on the side. So when I am, for instance, waiting in line at the grocery store, if I get an idea, I will log right into my Trello account, create a new card right in here and post ideas, and then flush out my idea really quickly, and then I'm not looking around for it later on. My next column is going to be to research. If I really feel like I have to research something, which I tend to do, and then it's going to move to in progress. And when it gets to in progress, it's going to have quite a few more granular details in checklist form. Sometimes attachments are going to go in there, images and or conversations with other folks that are invited to talk about the card itself. And then if I continue scrolling to the right, it is going into the next list that the card would go into is image and or video creation. Every blog post that I put up does have a pinnable image, so it does get thrown into this pile right here, this list, a pile. And then if there's a content upgrade that I'm going to be creating, it's going to then physically move to content upgrades. Once that has been completed, everything gets carried over here to what I call is the done baby file. And I do keep track of everything that I have done for future reference. My lists typically look like this. I do start off with a to-do list, like I mentioned. I do use all of these list types, the research, in progress, image, video creation, content upgrades, and done baby. I find that these are the important critical steps that I personally need to go through for every single blog post to ensure that I am putting up my best work and that it is complete. And that I really nail my process down and make it as efficient as possible. If you know anything about me, you know that being organized and being efficient is extremely important. So that is why I created this different template really for my lists. And within each list, I do create a template of a card, which does contain some very important elements for each blog post. So my blog post cards typically look like this. They do start in idea, and I'm going to click right here at this top one, streamline your Pinterest process, as an example. So you'll see that each card has a title. Right here I put a due date on it. That is flexible, but I do like to keep my feet to the fire so that I can continue producing valuable content. In here in the description, I will click edit. And in the description area, I typically keep a rough draft of what the post is going to be about, because just because I put this title up here doesn't necessarily mean that maybe, 2 months, 3 months from now, I'm going to remember exactly what that title was about. So as soon as the idea comes to me, I'm going to write it right here in the description. This button right here, formatting help, is very helpful when it comes to markup language. For example, you'll see there are 2 asterisks around this one sentence that I wrote as an example, and that is going to make it bold. But if you click here, it also shows you some more helpful tips. Your header tips, if you want to make something bold, like I said, if you want to make something have emphasis, and lists. So these are also great tools, and also you can see the complete syntax by clicking on that link right here. I'm going to close out of that. Note to everybody out there, please be sure to save anything that you write in here, otherwise it will not save it. I've learned the hard way. Every single one of my cards also contains a checklist, and my checklist is pretty much the same template that I use from post to post. It is going to contain these items in here, which I find are vital, and at least if they're not all going to be created for a post, they are going to appear on the card. That way I can say, that's not really necessary. I'm going to cross it off. As you cross items off, let's say I created additional image and I've created a call to action. Your progress up here, this blue bar, will show you how far in the process you're done. I'm now 36% complete with this card. You can add members for other people to see the card, the list, and the board. You could label this, say for instance, if this was part of an ongoing 30-day challenge or a large DIY project or a product launch, you can label it as such. Checklists, I will say that you can copy checklists from one card to another is extremely helpful, because when you do get into the nitty-gritty of requiring all of these elements in here, trying to remember them from one to another is challenging, and I have failed at it. So you can click here. I typically name them checklist, and you can copy items from, if you click on the drop down, you'll see there's a checklist right here. There's another one right here. If you've used a checklist once and you copy your card or you create a new card, you will be able to copy the checklist from one card onto the other one, and it will it'll start out fresh. You won't have anything crossed off. So if I were to add it, it would create a duplicate, so I'm not going to do that right now. You can put a due date on it, which is nice because then over here in this corner, once you have your calendar enabled, it will show the due date on the calendar, which then if you work out of your calendar, you can see is what is fast approaching and what's due. And also if you have members on your team, you're accountable, which is a wonderful thing. You can put attachments in here. I'm going to click on this button. It will obviously, like anything else, look at your computer. Google Drive and Dropbox, I do use both of these. Box and OneDrive, I do not use. You can also attach a link. Let's say, for example, if you looked up an image and it gave you visual inspiration, you would right-click the image, save the image address, and then paste the image address in here, click attach, and your image will show up right here at the top. You can move a card from one list to another. So I could move this from my post ideas or even from one board to another. Let's say if I wanted to move it from post ideas into research. And I'm going to make it priority number 1. I'm going to move it. It has now in the background moved from here over one column. You can also copy the entire card, which is very helpful. Like I said, once you create your template from one card and you want to repurpose that, we're talking about efficiency, you can copy the entire card. If I were to click on it, simply change the title, keep the elements that you want to keep. I only have one checklist in here. If I wanted to, if I had an image or an attachment or something else and I wanted to keep in here, I could check or uncheck anything there. I'm going to copy it to the same board, or you can change it. You can keep or change the list and also the position, just like we just saw. And it'll create a brand new, fresh card with the elements that you told it to contain. And that's just an easy 2-step process for creating a template. All right, if you're on a team or if you are picking this up from somebody else and you want it to subscribe, and maybe you work for somebody and the other person uses Trello, and you say, you know, I'm going to subscribe to that so that any changes that your teammates make, it'll show up fresh in your view. You would hit subscribe. And of course, if anything, you know, doesn't really go the way that you think it's going to, you can archive it. We'll say down here at the bottom, if I wanted to add any comments or I'm working with teammates, I can mention them right here, send them a quick comment. I can attach. I can also have a reaction, or I can create a new card. This is great if you're working with somebody else, and you would click send. And down here where it says show details, you can see what I have done to this card. This is a running live history, which is nice to see if anybody has come in here and made changes and you're questioning something, but if you're working on a team, it can get quite lengthy, so I tend to hide the details. Okay, so this is typically what my card will contain. So as you saw, I moved it. You can also pick up your card. So let's say I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to go past to research and I'm going to dump it in here. Let's say this one's definitely in progress. I'm going to click on it and I want to put a checklist on it. So I'm just going to call it checklist. I'm going to copy items from this checklist right here, add, and my checklist has come in. And I want to put a due date on this. Let's make this due the very last day of the month. I'm going to click save. Thank you very much. Now if I come over here and click in calendar, if I scroll down, My card now has a due date on it. So in order for me to get back to the view of the lists and all my cards, I'm going to scroll over here, click on calendar, and I'm back to my view with my lists of my steps and my process. And baby file, of course, from there it's marketed on social media, and an email sequence is created and all that other good stuff. But this is my process for creating posts, all the way from idea to creation and publication in Trello. If you have any questions, or you like this video, or you wanted me to show more or less, or if you just plain didn't like it, feel free to let me know, and feel free to get in touch via email or leave a comment, and I hope this was helpful. All right, thanks. Bye.